Welcome to the Swing Trading with Cycles channel. We're going to do our update on gold today and precious metals in general. It is April 30th, last day of April. We actually had the candle close on Friday since we obviously don't trade over the weekend. This is a Sunday, so we're going to open in a few hours actually. This is your daily chart of gold. As always, take a look at the pinned comment for past videos and other asset classes and fundamentals around price action and cycles. So let's talk about where we are in this daily cycle. And if you're not following on Twitter, take a look for a link in the pinned comment. As I posted, we have our daily cycle high on day 32, so that was April 13th. Formed the swing high after that. Friday was day 43. This certainly appears to be a bear flag. Keep in mind that we have the Fed announcement on Wednesday. The expectation is a 25 basis point raise. So you imagine there's going to be a big reaction to that. Also, definitely take a look at the dollar, the Dixie index update video. That is on day 10 of its daily cycle. And so wouldn't be surprised if we saw a spike up for Dixie and a spike down for gold to complete the daily cycle and then a move higher. So that's your daily chart. And importantly, on the weekly chart, we just closed week 8 and notice it's really just been consolidation. The last 2 weeks have just been the same exact range. And so that creates this zone between 2048 and 1953. And we see which side we break. And finally, the monthly candle, super important. It's month 7 of a new long-term cycle. This was a big bottom. I mean, think about that. This whole move up and then this cascade lower after like 7 straight months of red and lower lows. We've now rebounded. We're now basically back to where we were here. This next candle in May, given this big upper wick, is going to be an inside candle, which again opens tonight, opens Sunday, for our May candle. And so it's going to be a question, do we break to the upside or the downside? I suspect we're going to break to the upside because, again, we're expecting a daily cycle low soon. And my expectation is that that move takes us to all-time highs, this next daily cycle advance, I should say. And so let's flip over, and because again, remember, 8-year cycle, this was your last 8-year cycle low at the beginning of 2016. This was your most recent one. Look at this move, how long that lasted. We should expect an expansive move as well on this one. Let's go to silver really quickly. So we'll start with the monthly chart, and you can see silver has an upper wick as well, and so we're going to open as an inside month most likely. But still, most of the body is green, so we're still much closer to the higher end of the range than the lower end. And on the weekly, similar to gold, where we have a weekly cycle high so far, we have a high on the weekly cycle so far. For silver, for gold, it was week 6. For silver, it was week 5. I mean, look at this big move up, just higher highs for 5 weeks in a row. Of course, where it's going to rest. So similar to gold, also consolidating. We just closed out week 7. Remember, like the previous cycle rallied for 22 weeks, right? So that's a more bullish weekly cycle rally. And so imagine if we get something similar to that. We start week 8 tonight. That means another, 10, 12 weeks of rally potentially. And finally, if we look at the daily chart, similar picture to gold in that we've had our daily cycle high about a couple weeks ago, and it's just been kind of consolidating at the lower end of the range so far. It's day 36. We'll be starting today. So again, expecting a daily cycle low soon, if this wasn't already it, to be clear. But again, we do have the Fed meeting, so keep that in mind. So finally, we'll look at GDX, and then we'll look at some ratios and close this thing out. So GDX, daily chart, again, almost the identical pattern to silver. In this case, our high is on day 24. We're currently on day 35. And just keep in mind, look at this kind of like longer term rally. You might expect to get something like that after I'll draw that out just to make sure that we're clear, right? This move up, this move, right? That's the expectation. Once this is finished, we hit our daily cycle low, we get that move up. Again, gold to new all-time highs. That doesn't mean GDX will get there necessarily, but should be a nice little expansive move. And again, weekly chart, almost identical to silver. We have a top on week 5 so far. Week 8 opens tomorrow morning. And so we should expect the weekly cycle advance to continue once we get that daily cycle low. And big upper wick on the monthly chart, which means, again, we are going to have an inside month for May, at least to start. And it's a question of how we close. Do we break out above or do we break down below? Again, expectation is we break out above. Let's look at some ratios now. We're gonna look at gold to silver. We're gonna look at GDX to GLD. So gold to silver first. You want to see this bearish. If you want, like this is when this is bearish, that's bullish for precious metals. And what you can see here very clearly is this big move down, and then this move up was like, oh wait, is this gonna come back? Nope, it's not. Right? Like you can see that these arrows make it a little bit. Okay, so this is your monthly chart for the gold to silver ratio, and you can see, thinking about it from a cycles perspective, we've had this 19-month rally, which topped out on, yep, you guessed it, September 2022. That's not a coincidence. September 2022, excuse me, was the 3-year cycle high for the dollar. It's the 8-year cycle low for gold. It's also a major cycle low for platinum, it appears. And so not surprising that that's a top for silver. Or excuse me, for the gold to silver ratio. So silver is outperforming gold. And we had this drop for 4 months, and then this rally. This is becoming a lower high of this rally. And so what this is telling us is that, so wait, if that was month 19, this is month 26 right now. And notice we're talking about a very long-term cycle. And so there's no reason why this couldn't continue to fall, because this last cycle was 55 months. That was 63. That was 60. So these things can go on for a really long time. And you can see this was a really long rally and a really short decline. Pretty long rally, relatively short decline. I suspect we're going to get the opposite here. A really short rally and a really long decline, just to like spell that out. You know, something like look at this. You had this big move down and then this big move up, and now you're making lower highs, right? That's the expectation, something like that, right? Because this big downdraft, this whole thing is a lower high of this right here, and then you have this lower high here to kind of seal the deal. Now, of course, your big signal. Now it's obviously really bearish already, but once you break down below that, then that opens the floodgates because you're about to test that. That's the way to think about it. And if you look at it from a daily cycle perspective, this thing is so this thing is actually in a new daily cycle as we speak. So what is it? This is day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it's day 10 right now, and we have a possible top on day 7 actually. So that's important to be aware of actually. So we may already be moving down into a daily cycle low after a really, like, this is just an ugly consolidation sort of kind of daily cycle advance. This is a really long daily cycle in general. Like it rallied for 57 days and then declined for 25 days, something like that. So a very long rally, a pretty crazy decline in terms of the retracement. This thing rallied 16.5 points and it declined 13 points. So it gave up most of the rally. And again, the expectation is this is going to roll over, undercut this low, and then eventually take this one out. So that's the expectation. So that looks actually really bullish for precious metals in general and silver in particular. And if we think about it from a weekly cycle perspective, that high was week 11. And what is this? So this is week 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So we're now in week 18. So the other thing that we want to watch for is at some point this thing is going to make a weekly cycle low in ICL. And then we may get a bounce that's more sustainable. And so you do want to be careful there that this is going to get a bit of a more sustained rally at some point. And so that may mean pressure for precious metals. But right now, this is all looking pretty bullish for precious metals. And finally, let's look at GDX to GLD. That's the miners versus gold itself. So very similar chart to the GDX, like just the absolute chart. High on day 23. I'm guessing this is like day 35, something like in that neighborhood. Let's just take a look here. So that's day 22, and this is day 34. So again, wouldn't be surprised if we get a little bit, some kind of spike down on Wednesday with the FOMC announcement, just because that is so pivotal and we're so close at this point. But definite. This certainly has a look of something that wants to rally harder. And if we look at the weekly, same exact kind of idea. Big advance on the weekly chart. And look, we broke above this high. That's important. Crossing back above that is going to be important. But this is just setting this up to be a higher low on the weekly chart and then do something like that. And this is important because generally you want to see miners outperforming gold. So that's the update. Thanks for watching.